Morning, folks. It's Sunday morning, August 3rd. Hope you all doing well today. It's a rainy, overcast, cooler day here in Warner Robins, and kind of enjoying it not being so hot outside right now. What I'm doing, I'm making two different videos today. I'm going to make one focused on the tropics only, and if you're not interested in the tropics, then you can watch my other video that focused on the just the CONUS, meaning the continental U.S. So, that being said, let's get started here. First of all, I want to bring up. Oh, I thought I had everything ready here. Sorry, guys. This is the World Vapor Satellite Loop, which shows this Invest 95L now, it's called, and maybe it's a little bit better represented here. This is True Color Day and Shortwave IR infrared satellite loop. And what strikes me is that it still seems to have at this point some tropical, some frontal characteristics. And while you also notice there's a bunch of dry air right to its north, and that's if you go to a different water vapor loop here, red, green, blue, you see some darker colors here and some higher winds just to the north here. The National Hurricane Center has echoed this sentiment with the current outlook, although the chances of development is now up to 50%. Yesterday it was 30, last night it was 40, now it's 50. So I think as far as chances developing, I think either way, we're probably going to have a subtropical or tropical depression or a tropical or subtropical storm. Will it affect anybody on the United States? No. But from meteorological perspective, it's interesting to look at. And that's I'm going to kind of geek out here a little bit with this analysis. And also I'm going to talk about the future of this disturbance, this prod to develop in the main development region. Right now, they have a 30% chance to develop in the next 7 days. And don't fall for the clickbait that says that a storm's going to hit the continental U.S. in a week and a half. Nobody knows that at this point, and it hasn't been developed yet. So, go to sources you trust. The experts in the National Hurricane Center certainly know more than I do. I'm just giving you Tim Ealer's opinion about what I think is going to happen. So, that being said, if we look at this, I want to show you this again. This is the Google DeepMind AI model. It runs along with a couple of its Weather Next Gen and Graph and experimental models, the European ensembles, and high-res models. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. You can see the initialization time was this with midnight. Don't have any more initialization times. So the next run will be at initialization be 6 UTC. It takes a while for this data to come through here, so it's a little bit behind, but if you move through time here, all these models show at least a depression or subtropical depression developing, with most of them signaling something, maybe a tropical storm getting started here. The next. And the National Hurricane Center has said that conditions will become more unfavorable as it get out in time that this model goes to for development. So if it doesn't get structurally coherent in the next day or so, then chances of it developing in a storm or depression are lessened, of course. But either way, it's likely to develop into something. Whether or not it's fully tropical or not is still a question. But from a naming perspective, if it gets tropical storm force winds, it could still be classified as subtropical and takes the name of Dexter. Out here in the tropical Atlantic main development region, you could see the European model is wanting to develop a low pressure and brings it, develops a tropical storm up in here in the tropical Atlantic, not really bothering anybody. And wants to make it a hurricane category 1 9 days from now. And again, we don't know. 9 days from now, it's hard to predict that. But this has been pretty consistent, although the models, this has kind of trended to the right some over time. Not unusual, given we don't even know the system hadn't even developed yet. So what I want to do is go back over and show you the European model here. And one of the reasons why this system out here will have trouble getting a lot of strength. What you're looking at here is the 7 to 300 relative humidity levels and winds. So you can see that this is the 00Z initialized time. Okay, so this is the latest run. A lot of moisture surrounding, very moist in the green, you can see here. Move through in time here, dry air right to the north. And you can see over time that dry air gets ingested into the backside of the system and really becomes less looking, although it may deepen some when it gets up here. I'm not certain if it'll be really tropical at that point. It looks like it'll be more either subtropical or extratropical. With if it is subtropical, tropical system may be heavily loaded on one side here. Another thing that's affecting the system is wind shear. Go back in time. The deep reds show wind shear, high speeds just to its north. And there's a really thin high pressure system right over top of where this low is right now, with high winds just to its north. And over time, you see what happens here. These winds really don't let up, and it really gets embedded in that. Becomes more frontal in nature. So I don't really think it's going to develop much after that. It may become extratropical low, and you can see here how the winds are impacting it. Anyway, those are a couple of the things that really define whether a cyclone can develop. Light winds aloft and at the surface, not a lot of wind shear, and a moist environment in the mid levels. And this is unusual for systems in the subtropical Atlantic, tropical Western Atlantic, because we're so close to the jet stream. And the jet stream is pretty far south right now, given the low pressure here. And that's probably what's helping develop this, because there's a stalled front. And when you have stalled fronts and you get low pressure develop, and they kind of ride on that gradient and sometimes they acquire tropical, subtropical characteristics. If you look at most of the model guidance, this is the this is the my mind is it, this is a super ensemble. Definitely showing low pressure developing. All those numbers there indicate different pressure centers and the strength of them. Most of them are relatively weak. It wants to move it further to the north there. So we'll look at the European ensemble. Quite a lot more agreement, and a lot of the members really agree. I mean, that's a lot of members, and tightly clustered here. Of course, over time, it spreads out. They both agree something developed. And if you look down here in the main development region, we also have a lot of the members agreeing on something developing. And of course, you get a lot of spread out as you move out in time here, but down in the tropical, subtropical Atlantic, Western Atlantic, a lot of members agree you're going to have something out there. And if we go back to the GPS ensembles, they're not nearly as bullish on something being out there. If we go back in time here, they have something in here, but don't really. There seems to be maybe something here, but nothing that impressive. But obviously, well, let's look at the GFS ensembles. GFS, let's go back in time here a little bit. August 3rd, have a little pressure off the coast here. Same scenario. I think we're pretty sure something's going to develop. The GFS wants to hang some energy back here and possibly bring another low pressure up along the coast. If you look at the GFS, lower here, you have your low pressure out here. That's a different one. See here. No, it's the same one. Anyway, it leaves energy out here and it wants to bring something else up to the coastline here. Not many other models are showing this. And the operational run also has a low pressure now moving on the periphery of the subtropical high. Wants to really deepen it here. That's let's zoom into that a little bit. I think that's 953. That's interesting. If you go back in the runs, previous run didn't develop it much at all. Now it's 954. Previous run didn't have anything there. So run-to-run consistency is important. If you go back to the European, around that time, it shows something totally different. It doesn't really, the operational run really doesn't want to do much. It has some energy moving through the flow here, but really doesn't ever develop it. And you can see a wide expanse of the subtropical high. That's crazy. Let me go back to the see the European wants to bring this low pressure a lot further. This is the operational run and develop it way out in the Atlantic here. So you can see what it wants to do up here as well. It wants to deepen it, and likely at this point it'll be extra tropical. for the current system. Now I'm going to geek out a little more. What I wanted to show you was the phase space diagrams for this potential system off the coast here. So what we're seeing here is this is a tool that the forecasters use to determine whether or not a system is going to be cold core or warm core. So a cold core system is an extratropical system you used to seeing on the continental U.S. with fronts and things like that. Warm core systems are tropical systems that have a coherent structure and are um, not necessarily symmetrical all across, but don't have any frontal boundaries and are warm core, meaning they're not driven by um, baroclinic processes, driven by barotropic, which is latent heat release. Low pressure develops at the surface, rising air. Frontal boundaries and winds that change direction with height are not conducive for tropical development. Anyway, first this is an ensemble grouping showing different model ensemble spaghetti plots, if you will. And the map up here shows where it begins and where it currently is and where it ends on this model cycle, currently out here off the southeast coast. These spaghetti lines kind of indicate where in the forecast it thinks this is going to be. And you could see here eventually, if you go down to where it is right now, it's in asymmetric warm core phase, according to this barely so. And it's forecast to maybe make it into symmetric warm core briefly and back to asymmetric warm core, eventually transitioning to extratropical later in the period. And the way this cloud looks, it's based on model uncertainty. It's the spread here. So, because you get further out with model guidance, the spread and the confidence gets less. So this is based on low tropospheric thermal wind versus upper tropospheric thermal wind, and you can see most of the models agree that it's going to be a shallow, warm core tropical cyclone. That's spaghetti, and this is the kind of the cloud look, if you will. See how it's moving from, it's kind of in the shallow phase right now. This is the 900 to 600 thermal wind difference between the two. So both of these models agree that it will become at least a shallow tropical system or subtropical. And given what it also looks at too is the SSTs across the cyclone's path, and cyclones do well up to 26C, which is the orange, the SST gradient here. So that's not going to be an issue. We got not warm enough water along its path if it to gain tropical, subtropical characteristics. So going back to the long range guidance here, real quickly to look over the ensembles for the potential system out here. What I see is a lot of model spread over time. European really spreads out when it gets towards August 11th or later. And although there's model agreement that be something out here, the GFS ensembles don't really have a lot of members that agree on anything that far out. And I wouldn't expect they would. We don't have any system that's even developed yet. I don't think there's any question it'll be tropical in nature. Now, will a system develop off the coast here in the next couple of days? The GFS has been hinting at this for quite a while. And this DO6Z run, go back and run, it's been hitting that for a while. And this is 4 days from now. And the EPS, the European ensembles, has something maybe out there, but really doesn't do much with it. And if you look at the GPS, really, there's maybe something out there, but doesn't do anything with it. And that's probably driven by the bias that the GFS has with wants to leave some vorticity behind here, maybe bring it up the coast, but doesn't make it very strong. Vorticity meaning spin in the mid levels of the atmosphere. And if we look at the operational run, it shows that, and it shows some vorticity here as well in the mid-Atlantic. The GFS has a tendency to overdo the vorticity and development in the tropics. However, I think given the overall consensus, something's going to develop out here. I think something will, but will it develop and move towards the continental US? None of us knows that yet. Anyway, I appreciate y'all listening, and I think I have some confidence that we're going to get either a subtropical or tropical depression form in the next 24 hours. Will it get any more than that? Probably not, but we'll see. Have a good day, and if you want to, I'm going to make another video. Want to listen to that about the weather in the U.S.